Hey, everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan, and I am joined here as always with my partner in crime, Sam Schneider, Primetime Sports Talk, who who was at the game last night, which is why we're recording in the morning. You'll notice I'm drinking coffee. So he was at the game, so I want to hear some of his experiences. And this is another episode of Jungle Talk, and I won't yell because Who Day. I won't yell because Sam is right there. Oh, and you know what I forgot? I can't
Get
believe
the
it.
horn, Mark.
Last time we only blew this 3 times in the whole year. And we just blew it again already in week 4. So it's exactly what we needed.
I'm gonna sit here and rock the peas and carrots for most of the episode here.
Yeah, there you go.
Because it was a good one, and like most good ones, the next day is a bad one.
That's right. So we're going to go through, as always, with the good and the bad. But before we do, and there's a lot of good, there's some bad because we all watched that first half. But before we do any of that, I want to hear about the Ring of Honor ceremony and just being at the game last night. What an amazing game to be at.
Yeah, it was really cool, and I'll tell you what, there are a couple things, and I'll try to get through them as quickly as possible, so the whole video is not about it. But number one, it's a primetime game, so people were drinking at 4:30 in the parking lots. Easily 4 hours before game time. I saw quite a few, we'll call them party fouls, even before the game even started. I had, other friends tell me that they saw similar party fouls in the stands, but it was loud once everybody got in the stadium, and that was exciting. And they did some fun things. I've never seen this before during the pregame introductions when they were introducing the defense, and when Cincinnati first came out. They were only using about half the lights at Paul Brown and blinking them and flashing them. I don't know if you could see it on TV or not.
Yeah.
But normally, you wouldn't know that because it's a day game. But it was kind of dark in there. And I swear to God, whoever is in charge of the the sound and things like that in the stadium, they cranked it up. It was way louder than I've heard it for a normal game, as far as the music, as far as the calling out the players' names and stuff like that. Everything was just turned up. It's like Spinal Tap. Instead of everything being a 10, they turned it all up to 11, and made it a little louder. So that was a lot of fun, and it got everybody pumped up. And they kept saying all day that the crowd, that it wasn't a sellout crowd, but compared to when I went to the Minnesota game in week 1, I thought the stadium actually looked fuller, because during the Minnesota game, the club level was kind of empty, but it was mostly packed. The lower bowl was packed. The upper bowl was packed. So it was loud in there, man. That first defensive series, holy smokes, people were screaming like crazy.
Well, no, that's awesome. How about the Ring of Honor ceremony? They didn't show
Ring
a
of
lot
Honor
of it.
was cool.
We got it in the background. You know where the stage was for the NFL Network and everything, and so they're talking.
Yeah, I was sitting.
I see little glimpses
like,
when they're in and out of commercial.
I literally.
Yeah. So
yeah, I was literally I was in the 100s, and I was row 21. Thanks to my buddy Matt, aka Neba, NSP Productions. We were sitting in row 21, and if you walk straight down the rows, I mean, I was looking right at the NFL Network tent.
right.
We were right there. The Ring of Honor was really cool, and it was succinct. They didn't really draw out the ceremony. Obviously, you only have a certain amount of time that you have to do this stuff at halftime.
Right.
But it was really cool, and they gave Kenny and Munoz their jackets, and Ken Riley's son, Ken Riley the second,
Right.
took his dad's jacket and he wore that, and they were cool. They were just I want to say like a charcoal gray or maybe even black. I couldn't really tell from the screen. Because even though it was, happening right on the field right there, you watch the screen so you can see the close-ups and whatnot. But they also the inside was all lined with orange and black stripes.
Cool.
And had the like the Bengals head logo on it. So each guy, when he put it on, kind of opened his jacket,
Right.
and that was really cool. There weren't any speeches by them or anything like that, but everybody was on the field. Katie and Elizabeth and Mike Brown was not on the field. And this is the one thing I'll say on a sidebar. Mike Brown's pretty smart. It's almost like, when Goodell does the draft, no matter what he's doing, he's going to get booed. And I think Mike Brown knows that people are going to boo him if he's on the field. So for events like this, he just doesn't go out there because he doesn't want to take away from the moment.
Good.
You know what I mean?
That's good. That's smart.
Yeah. So, and I could be mistaken. Maybe he was out there, but I didn't see a golf cart, so probably not.
Maybe just wasn't up for going on the field, but whatever the course. But if it's something, I think.
Well, yeah, he's an old dude too. So
yeah, so it just he was represented down there with family.
Yeah, so that was cool, and they also the three of them who were honored were also the new to this year ruler of the jungle. Which they do right before kickoff. They've got like the staff and there's the stage and everything, and they lead everybody in the Who Dey chant, which is really cool. So we got to see plenty of Munoz and Kenny Anderson, and there was even a nice little montage of
Ken Riley.
And players from the 1981 team. There were, besides Anderson being there and Riley being a part of it, there were a couple extra guys that were invited there because it was the first Ring of Honor game. So they were all sitting in a club later on, and there were interviews from Kenny Anderson and Riley and a couple other guys on the team, and they said, give it up again for the 1981 Bengals, and put a camera up there in the club, and that was cool. And they got their due respect from the crowd. And at halftime, when they did this whole ceremony, nary a person was leaving to go to the concession stands. Everybody was out there watching.
Excellent.
As well it should be.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you were there. So I know we're recording late, but this is what we get. You were at the game, and clearly it takes time to get home. We're not going to shoot a show at 2 a.m. your time. You needed that. Yeah. So I appreciate you getting up early also, to get this going. So let's jump into the episode here, because it was a great game. It was in typical Bengal fashion. They age us. Yeah. Boy, well, you could not see a game that was two completely different halves. And so most of the bad I have, comes from the first half. I don't think there was any bad in the second half. You just start out, you have the missed field goal on the opening drive. I talk about momentum killers. We move the ball into field goal range, and it's his first miss. He didn't miss anything in preseason. It was his first miss on the year. Just tugged it a little left. It just missed going inside the upright. But it kind of started us out on a down note, and then Jacksonville comes back with those 2 touchdowns, and I was sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, they had 68 first quarter rushing yards." I mean, we were averaging about that in a game for the first 3 games, and we gave that up in the first quarter. I was like, "What happened to our run defense?" So
and I'll even spin the kicker side of it. What's funny is, if that was Randy Bullock and he missed that kick, the whole stadium would have groaned. But it's almost like I've never seen everybody, rally behind a kicker this way. It's like he missed it and everybody was like, that sucks. But it's Evan. It's fine. We can't even be mad at him because everybody's so excited that he's a part of the team. And, fast forward to way later in the game, and I know we're going to get there.
Oh, yeah.
No one had any doubt after he missed that first one that he was not going to miss again. You know what I mean?
Vinatieri probably missed his share of kicks during the game that we don't remember because he made the one that counted at the end.
Yeah.
You want people to forget or not remember or have it just not even be a footnote, make the one that's the money kick on the line. and that's what
Yeah,
he did.
and I'm with you. The bad was the rush defense,
Yeah.
and especially with when Chark went down on like their third offensive play, you were like, well, they're gonna try to run the ball now, and
Yeah.
if you'd have told me they were gonna constantly run the ball to the outside, I'd have been like, oh yeah, well, we could be susceptible to that. But he was running. James Robinson was running up the gut.
Yeah. We
He was
talked about
up
how
the gut.
the center was the strength of our defense on the run game, and they were acting like they weren't even there.
Yeah,
That was one of the things that set up both of those touchdown drives. Is we were giving up way too many first down rushing yards. They were in 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, right off of an initial rush, and like I said, they were running right up our gut, right up the middle. So that was kind of disappointing to see. And then you had, Wayans out there. He gave up the big pass completion. I think it was on the first touchdown drive, and he just looked lost on that play. I mean, they showed the replay, and he's like, the ball's like coming in, and he's just doing this, and he had no idea. I mean, he looked like a guy who hadn't played in a year and a half.
yeah, and he hasn't. And I think that's part of it. I noticed because he was on our side a lot. I noticed he was playing off ball coverage for the majority of the game. He was giving a very, very healthy cushion to his receiver, which, like, I get it's been a while, you know what I mean? And it's your first game with this team, even though you signed with them a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. It's your first game. So I'd rather you play soft coverage than just get beat,
Right.
So that's good. But that pass was available all game. A quick 5-6 yard strike where Waynes is sitting off about at the sticks.
Right.
You come up and make the tackle. It's still, I think, helped that he was out there though, because they weren't just constantly throwing at Eli Apple the whole time, which is a good thing. And the couple chances that Eli had to wrap guys up, boy, there was one play where it was one-on-one coverage. There was not a safety to be found, and it was Apple, and the guy caught the ball like 3 yards in front of him. I was like, boy, please make this tackle, because if you don't, this is all I'm going to talk about tomorrow.
Right. Oh,
But luckily he did wrap him up. But so it was nice that that took, instead of it just being, okay, Awuzie is out there, so we're gonna throw at Apple. It's almost better that it was, well, Waynes is out there and he's rusty, so we'll throw to either one. It was almost better that way. You know what I mean? So they played a little soft on the zone, but they kept the play in front of them, and that's important.
Yeah. Well, there's only two other things I want to bring up on the bad. First of all, huge penalty on Bell. We get the sack and he gives him a 1st and goal. I was like, he's only had a few penalties, but his 2 penalties were huge. Mm-hmm. That was a huge penalty, and the penalty on the taunting, where that would have led to a score in the Chicago game. We may have won the Chicago game. I mean, there are several things we've talked about with that Bear game where one thing, Logan Wilson falling on the ball, whatever, and we win that game. So It was that was a huge thing. And then the other one was I will sum it up. The first half, we hadn't given up. Well, we were averaging 60 or 70 yards on the ground for the whole game. We gave up 115 rushing yards in the first half. Like I said, 68 in the first quarter, and the first downs were 15-4, and the time of possession was 2-1. So you take it was just that sums up the first half, except for the stand right before halftime, when Urban Meyer decides to go for it. I mean, that's a pivotal part in the game.
It was giant.
They carry that energy into the locker room, and that's going to transition us right into the good, which was that stand. If Jacksonville goes up 21-0 at half, we're in some real that's a big mountain. That's a big hole. And that stand not only does it keep the score at 14, but but you carry that energy into the locker room, which is why I love this game so much, because we're carrying the energy of this game into our bye week. I tweeted that out right after the game. So that's the start of the good. That defensive stand. Logan Wilson is an absolute beast. I started him. I drafted him on my fantasy team. That guy's unbelievable. He's made this jump to just another level of linebacker this season.
Right.
So
yeah, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit, Mark. So I'm going to address your last two bads real quick. The rushing yards was also a problem because, Urban Meyer at one point kind of decided we're going to run college plays here. And Trevor Lawrence was doing the read option, and he was doing it to perfection.
yeah.
And and it was almost always a keeper. Like, he almost always kept the ball. He almost always kept it rather than hand it off. And I know the stats say that he only had, I think, like 8 for 34 rushing, but boy, it felt like 10 for 200 because it was every time they needed 3 yards. Man, he just gashed us.
That was it. It was situational football. We talk about this all the time. He got those 3rd and 2. He ran for 3. They weren't big numbers, but they were big. And think about it. I remember a play where he got Hubbard going one way and then juked the other way. He did the same thing to Hendrickson. I mean, he found his and they were timely yards. So
and it's one of those things where they kept doing it, and you can't help but as a Bengal fan, obviously you're trying not to look past the game or anything like that, but you can't help but think, boy, if this was Baltimore, Lamar Jackson would be tearing us apart right now.
Right.
So we have to do. I noticed that on defense, our ends, Hubbard and Hendrickson, they were getting pressure, but they weren't containing in the situations where Lawrence had a chance to roll one way or the other, even if it was a keeper, even if he had the ball already. And they need to do a better job of collapsing around rather than running right at him, because too many times we were running right at him and all he's got to do is make the end miss. And next thing you know, it's smooth sailing. There's just nobody in front of you. So we're going to have to remedy that before we actually play Baltimore in a few weeks.
Right.
But so that was a big one. I'm with you on Logan Wilson. He had our only sack of the day. We had plenty of pressures. I think Hendrickson, he came into this game with the most pressures in the NFL. And he lived up to that. He kept pressuring and was just kind of almost there. I mean, we had so many near misses on sacks where we wanted to take them down. Pretty sure Logan had the only sack of the game for us. I think they only had one as well. But the quarterbacks were getting after it and evading tackles as best they could. But yeah, there was a lot to like in the second half. I mean, anytime you win the scoring 24-7 in a half of football, whether it's the first or the second, the chances are you're probably going to win the game. And that was the case for us.
Yeah, no, that was huge. The Wilson was a beast. I put down here, Wilson was a beast. Uzama, oh my gosh, what a game! He was only targeted 5 times in the first 3 games, and he was targeted 5 times in this game. So
you know what, Mark? I'm going to throw 2 things on that. One has to do with me actually being at the game. At one point, coming out of a timeout, when we were backed up, I think after a punt on our own side of the field, might have even been before one of our last scoring plays. Uzama ran out at the end of the timeout and went to every man on that offense and just gave him a shake or a shoulder hit or an arm bar or something. Just, I mean, there's nothing going on. There wasn't a play or anything like that. That's leadership. He went out there and, I can only imagine what he was saying, but in my head, it was, all right, guys, we're going to get this. We're going to get this. We're going to do it. And that's what you want out of your leaders. And I love that. And here's the other thing. There's a quote from Uzama when Burrow called the audible that he eventually scored on the far sideline.
Right.
Uzama said after the game, I had to do a double take on that one, talking about being in the huddle and Burrow saying, I'm going to change up the play. They were in the huddle. I had to do a double take on that one. He called it, and he gave me a wink. I'm like, this guy is reckless. He's the smartest guy on the field.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is faith in your quarterback. And I love the fact that he's like, he's reckless. He's just going for it.
Right.
Like, he called this audible, looks over at me, gives me a wink, and I'm like, oh, so we're doing that. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But you can't say enough about the game that Uzama had. It was excellent.
That was unbelievable. And I know that Higgins was out, so there was some targets there, but we still Tate had a game. He got a big penalty called on him, obviously, and called the defender on Tate. So we had people filling in for Higgins, but Uzama was just huge. I'll jump into just some of the other things. We scored on all 4 of our second half possessions. That's a perfect half. I mean, we didn't see the punter. We never went for it on 4th down. I mean, that was, converting 3rd downs. And I don't remember what the 3rd down conversion was. We were 5 for 9. I don't remember converting a whole lot of 3rd downs in the first half. And then they probably converted almost every one of their 3rd downs. We were talking about how Trevor Lawrence did. Well, they finished up 6 for 12. So I would figure that we were like 5 for 6, in the second half. And they were probably 0 for 6, on 3rd downs. It completely shifted. But that scoring on all 4 possessions was huge. I'm going to mention, because I bashed him so much in so many videos for over the last year and a half, Zach Taylor made adjustments. I can't tell you how many times Marvin Lewis would say, I'm not just going to throw a game plan out the door. We spent all week on it. Yeah, at halftime, if it's not working, you are going to throw that out the door. Or you're going to make tweaks to it somehow. He refused to make adjustments. When Zimmer left the Bengals, the adjustment stopped. The halftime adjustment stopped.
Right.
And
it almost became a running gag. When we were down at halftime, going into the locker room, and I know at Bengals West when we were at the bar, it was like, oh, that's okay, guys, we're going to make some adjustments at halftime.
Yeah.
And we would always come out flat in the 3rd quarter every single time.
Right.
But this season has been a different story. We have made adjustments. Whether we were winning, whether we were losing, it didn't matter. We obviously switched it up. And I wanted to mention Zach also because, during warm-ups, and I think this says a lot, fans can take from it whatever they want. During warm-ups, you got Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan over on the sidelines, and they're talking, but they're obviously not talking about the game plan. They were just shooting the shit. For all I know, they could have been talking about somebody having a barbecue this weekend. What are you going to do on your Sunday off day? Which says to me, we're confident in our game plan and we're confident coming into this game. We're not even paying attention to our guys warming up. We're not worried about, oh, hey, what about that one play that we thought about? Maybe we will, maybe we won't. They were just chit-chatting. Now, I'm sure there's some purists out there that'll say, well, no, they should be talking about football right now. But that actually gives me a little more confidence that they were just chatting and saying, yeah, no, we're confident in our game plan. We've done all our work for this week. We've done everything we can do before a Thursday night game, which are, as we all know, are awful and unpredictable. So anytime you get a win on Thursday, I feel like it should be worth 2 wins because they're disastrous.
A win and a half.
Yeah. But the fact that they were so comfortable and just chit-chatting, that's actually a really good sign.
Well, you know what? When you went into an exam in college, when you were prepared for the test, you weren't sitting there cramming 5 minutes before the test. You were sitting in your chair.
That's absolutely right.
Bring it. Right.
That's absolutely what a great
it's a different attitude.
You nailed it.
So it would be remiss if we didn't.
Even if you had the peas and carrots
That's right.
On your head when you walked in. You were like, I've done all my work. I've gotten all my work in, so I'm ready.
Yeah, we're going to transition over to Joe in the final drive in a second. We got to mention Tyler Boyd. He was there when we needed him.
Yeah.
Made some great catches, hurt his hand, came back in. We didn't know if he was coming back in. So Tyler Boyd. So, I wrote Wilson, Boyd, and then obviously Joe Cool. I mean, what can you say? We scored on all our second half possessions. Defense does their job. We get the ball back. We're at what, like between the 10 and 15 yard line, if I remember. We were inside the 20, and we just start that methodical, march downfield. We get the penalty on the holding on Tate, which was good. But you just march downfield. Never had to go for it on fourth down, right? Didn't get to that, brink type of play.
Sure.
And set it all up for Evan Almighty. And, there was CJ with the big catch to get us down to the 20 and basically make it an extra point. And then there was no question that Evan Almighty was going to make it.
No, there was none. Especially after missing a kick early. There was
make the money.
There was not a doubt in that stadium. Everybody knew. When they came out to line up for it, there was no trepidation. There was no, a hush didn't fall over the stadium. Everybody was like, "Nah, we got this. This is good. We're about to win the game," which is great. And we'd be remiss to not mention Samaje Perine on that last drive, because Joe had an ankle injury, which they've since said doesn't seem like a big deal. It was just bothering him. I think he probably just turned it. You know what I mean? So, and he's got 10 days before we play again, so no big deal. But Samaje came in, got some good reps, had some good carries to extend that drive. And to get us down there until, like you said, Evan Almighty comes in and we're all set.
So you just see the whole swag, the confidence level with this team, and just you see what you have in Joe Burrow when he did his NFL Network interview, and I also watched his presser afterwards. But the NFL Network had him for a good 10 minutes. I mean, he was there for a while. He signed the sign from the girl from San Diego and did all that. But you just see how he talks about it. Oh yeah, well they came up with this defense and we did that, and just the confidence and how he exudes, his whole karma about him. There's a winner. And I know you don't like Mike Florio, but you're going to like actually this comic, because he is a huge Joe Burrow fan. And he wrote this morning, he's a quarterback with the potential to permanently change the narrative of a franchise. His arrival sparks a transformation that turns a long-suffering team into a perennial high-level contender with one or more Super Bowl championships in the future. He's that guy. He's that Peyton Manning type. And he drew comparisons in his blog to Peyton Manning, what Peyton Manning did for Indy, with that just elevates everybody around him, and you just see it. When he's essentially a rookie and he's audibleizing plays. He's got complete command of the huddle. He doesn't wear the play wristband. It's all up here. It's just, like I said, you just know it when you're looking at him, that he's the real deal. And I just couldn't be happier. It's just, our whole future is so bright because.
And I know it's, and
it's future. Like I said, that I just, as a Bengal fan, I'm excited. I'm excited not just for this season, but for the next 10 years.
Sure. Well, and it's been said ad nauseum, by most fans, that people are like, Joe's going to bring us one. Joe's going to bring us one. And everybody says that about every quarterback they're excited about that they got. But I buy that. And as a matter of fact, my buddy who I sat with last night, he sent me that this morning. He's like, Joe's going to bring us one. He also mentioned, like you said, as far as audibling, plays and everything, at one point there were like 4 straight plays where, and one or two of them could have been dummy plays. It could have been a dummy audible, where you still like ran a draw or something like that. But Joe was yelling out assignments and stuff for like 4 straight plays. And Matt, who I was sitting with, turned to me and he's like, Joe's calling the plays now. Like Zach
Right.
has nothing to do with it at this moment. Like on this drive, Joe is calling the plays.
He smacks
But
his
yeah, he
helmet,
sent
and
me
you
a
just
text message this morning.
yeah. He smacks
Yeah,
his helmet, and you
yeah.
go, "Oh,
Or and
here we go." Peyton Manning used to have
well, and
he used to put the fingers in the ear hole, and then the next play would be a
yeah,
pass to Reggie Wayne. So it was like, hey, note to self, fingers in the ear hole means a pass to Reggie Wayne. But no, Joe,
yeah.
you see it, and it's just like I said, it's a new level, and I'm just so excited. Like I said, not just for the season, because I do think we are absolutely in contention for the North. That came up on the Rich Eisen show. Hey, are the Bengals for real? Are they contenders? And looking at the schedule, I mean, I can see a 7-2 at the bye if we just keep
Yeah.
doing what we're doing, and Joe keeps coming through. I don't see any reason why, and that makes us a playoff team, and like I said, a North contender. And that
Well, and I have a friend, my buddy Pete, whose tailgate I went to yesterday. He was discussing momentum, and how some people argue that momentum isn't a real thing. It's just having to go out each week and do your job and everything. And I was like, well, I think momentum is absolutely a real thing, especially for a team this age. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We're the fourth youngest team in the NFL. Momentum is a real thing. You need to show that you can win these games against the teams that you need to beat, that you're supposed to beat, that you're expected to beat, and gain that momentum and gain just a little bit more confidence every time. You know what I mean? None of those Bengals woke up this morning and say, "Whew, glad we didn't blow it against Jacksonville." No, they're like, "Yeah, we won, hard-fought game, more momentum, more
right.
momentum."
Anybody who says
And that's what you need before you start rolling into matchups
right.
with teams like Green Bay and Baltimore and playoff contenders from a year ago. That's exactly what you need.
Yeah. Well, anybody who doesn't believe that momentum is real, look at the momentum we carried into the halftime with that defensive stand. Look at the momentum we were going into our bye week.
Absolutely.
Our mini bye, because not really a bye week, but our mini bye. Look at the momentum we're carrying in. And that's a huge thing. I mean, this team can feel great about themselves and carry all this energy into Green Bay, I think, is our next opponent. I didn't pull the schedule up. I was
I think it's Detroit first and then Green Bay.
Bay. All right. I don't, whatever it
No,
is,
you might be right.
we're going to be rolling. And like I said, I'm very optimistic. And as a true pro, Joe Burrow will not be he's not thinking playoffs. I'm going to give the Jim Moore a playoffs. I'm just trying to win a game, right? So I'm going to give you that one.
You're talking about
playoffs, right? I know he's just focused on a game at a time, because he said we haven't won anything. They said to him on the NFL Network about not letting continuing the momentum from Pittsburgh and all that. And he said we haven't won anything yet. He goes, we're 3-1. We haven't won anything. He realizes he's got the end game in mind. He realizes it's what's the next team up there, and that's a pro. And he's basically still a rookie. And this was what he's exuding. So I just couldn't be happier.
And by the way, you're correct. Green Bay is the next game.
Next one. So this is good. We have extra time to prepare for Aaron Rodgers. We'll get some film on him this week. He's playing Pittsburgh.
And most importantly, the 10-day layoff gives us a chance to get Bates back, get Awuzie back, get Awuzie and Wayne's on the field at the same time, get your safety in there, get everybody healed up, get T. Higgins, his shoulder healed up, take some time, and you know what? There have been so many injuries this year in the NFL. I'm going to knock on wood here. Thankfully we haven't suffered any enormous ones.
Right.
We got guys that are dinged up. Well, that's going to happen. It's football. Guys are going to be dinged up. But other teams are suffering way worse than we are on the injury front. So, and this is coming at a great time. This, like you said, the mini bye is coming at a great time to get everybody back on the up and up. So, because Green Bay is going to be a big test. That's going to be a huge test.
Yeah. No. And overall, we only had 6 penalties in the game. So, we played clean. And like I said, we've been fortunate with the injuries. I'm going to knock on whatever I've got here, but
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and six penalties, and that was with I hate to bitch about the refs, but it was a suspect crew. last night, in my
Right.
opinion.
Well, they
So-
ate their flags a lot. There was a ton of holding by Jacksonville on the defensive
Tons.
line, and the Jacksonville had 2 flags. So they
Yeah.
basically let the holding go, and then they called us for one late, but we overcame it. So,
Right.
but still, it was and I will give them credit for one thing. Eli Apple, who should have got a late hit on Trevor Lawrence, who was sliding. Eli Apple, they ended up not calling that flag. So
That's right.
there we go, and we're back.
Yeah,
Sam was
you know,
frozen there,
I
so I
mean,
did a quick pause.
It stands to reason that my internet would start giving me trouble right when we're in the home stretch.
Right at the end. So, all right. Well, with that, while we got Sam back on his internet, tell them where they can find all your stuff. And we forgot to tell you, hit the subscribe button, please, for us. That's all.
Smash that subscribe button. Smash it. And hit the bell and get the
you get the updates. Yeah, you get the alerts. So go ahead and tell them where they can find all your stuff.
Sure. I write and edit for Primetime Sports Talk. You can find us at primetimesportstalk.com. You can find me on Twitter at Buy and Sell You and at Talk Primetime.
Excellent. We will be back with the preview of the Green Bay game next week. And enjoy your Sunday. We actually can put on the Red Zone channel. Let's go Broncos. Let's go Packers. Right. We want the Packers off a win, not a loss.
That's correct.
So we want them to beat the Steelers for us. Denver could very easily. Detroit barely escape, or Baltimore barely escaped Detroit. They needed a no flag, a missed flag, and a 66-yarder to pull out that one. So they could lose in Denver this week. And then I forget who Cleveland's playing, but I think they're playing Minnesota.
Yeah, Cleveland's playing Minnesota, and
that's in Minnesota. So that's
Minnesota's no joke, man.
No.
I know we came into the season kind of thinking that their defense was going to stink again, and it sort of does. But that offense is humming.
Yeah.
So I think all 3 AFC North teams could lose, and that would just leave us just
alone at the top,
sitting pretty, baby.
Well,
sitting pretty.
If you asked me in the beginning, and I can go back to my videos where I talked about we needed a fast start, I think I would have been happy with 3-1 right now. But I just wouldn't have thought that the Bears would be the loss.
Right.
Of any of those 3 games, do you really think the Bears was the loss?
Well, I mean, that's football. Any given Sunday, right? Any given Sunday.
So, just like that, look at the Bills. They lost to the Steelers. That's their one loss. So I guess maybe, it is what it is. But we'll be back with the preview of the Green Bay game. We'll do it on Thursday evening at the halftime like we usually do. And with that, it's a great day to be a Bengal fan. Hoo-day, everybody.
Hoo-day.
Take care.